So right now that you understood that what BIM is and why it matters, now let's go for one of the really important parts of this lesson. So BIM dimensions. You might have heard that BIM is 3D, 4D, or 7D. So you might ask this question that do we have more than 3D? But the reality is when we're talking about the dimensions of BIM, we don't mean actually just the 3D view of the building. Actually, these dimensions, in fact, are different layers of information that will be on 3D model, and actually each layer will add a kind of new value to the model and helps that the project will be managed from different perspectives. 3D or actually geometry modeling. So here exactly, this is exactly what everyone imagines when they think of BIM. So the 3D model that includes length, width, and height. So let's assume that you're designing kind of hospital. By 3D model, actually you can define the exact route of the pipes, cables, false ceilings, and even furnitures. So this causes that nothing will be missed, or even if you find any kind of clashes, you can just remove that clash. The fourth dimension is scheduling or time. When we link a 3D model to a schedule, the project can be simulated as an animation over time. This allows us to see when each part is constructed, how much of the construction stage has been completed, and ultimately when the entire project will be finished. For example, in a bridge construction project, we can see when the bridge foundations are built and when the deck is installed. This process helps minimize delays and ensures the project stays on track. The fifth dimension is cost. This is where financial management comes into play. When costs are linked to a model, any change in design immediately affects the budget. For example, imagine a client wants to change the facade of the residential tower. At that very moment, you can calculate how this decision impacts the overall cost. So the sixth dimension focuses on sustainability and energy. This dimension addresses environmental concerns and energy efficiency. Using BIM, energy consumption and natural light impacts within a project can be simulated. During the design phase, BIM helps determine the optimal placement of the windows to reduce electricity or other energy usage. In this way, we achieve energy savings. The seventh dimension is maintenance management. BIM is not just for the construction phase, it is also very useful after the project is handed over. Information about equipment installation dates, maintenance schedules, and the lifespan of each asset is stored in the model. For example, in a larger store with thousands of pieces of equipment, the BIM model helps make maintenance much simpler and more cost-effective by servicing or replacing each piece of equipment on time according to its schedule. For lifespan, bigger damages and additional costs can often be prevented. The eighth dimension is safety. Layers of information are added to the project's 3D model to ensure that workers and the construction environment remain safe. Using simulation and spatial analysis in the BIM model, you can identify potential hazards. For example, equipment collisions, falls from height, or even interference between cranes and workers. After that, safe work zones, emergency routes, and the placement of the protective barriers are planned. For instance, in a renovation project of an old building, you can check which walls are at risk of collapsing and where protective scaffolding should be installed. This way, before starting work, everything can be anticipated and risk of the accidents is greatly reduced. So we can see the benefits of BIM are not limited to just 3D. Each dimension adds new value to the model. Of course, there are other dimensions as well, which are still under development.